Good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure to deliver this webinar lecture on behalf of IGS Delhi chapter. The topic of my presentation is Foundations for Tall Buildings on Alluvial Deposits, Geotechnical Aspects. So I thank Aarti and her team for inviting me to present this lecture before all of you. I welcome all of you to the presentation, and I hope that you will find it useful. So let's talk about tall buildings. Tall buildings, as defined by the Council of Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat. Yeah, buildings taller than 50 meters is termed as tall building. Buildings higher than 100 meters is termed as skyscraper. Buildings 300 meters tall or taller are called super tall, and buildings 600 meter tall or taller are called mega tall. IS 16700 2017, this is the new code on criteria for tall buildings, which has come up in 2017. So this defines tall building as a building with height of more than 50 meters. The code is applicable for height of up to 250 meters. The Indian scenario is that with rapid economic growth, tall multi-story buildings are now common in all the metropolitan cities of India. As of today, structural engineer and architect are the principal decision makers with regard to foundation design. The role of geotechnical engineer is usually limited only to performing a geotechnical investigation, giving SBC values, giving pile capacities, etc. Whereas there have been rapid changes and innovations in the approach for structural design, the geotechnical aspect has remained more or less conventional, almost the Terzaghi days. Now this needs to change. Geotechnical engineers need to rise to the challenge, come up with innovations that ensure safety, reliability, and economy in foundation design. Let us look at the geotechnical inputs required for foundation design. The design criteria, you have the ultimate limit state, which is that the factor of safety against failure of the foundation and of the supporting soils has to be adequate. The serviceability state, limit state, says that the settlement of the foundation, particularly differential settlement under the working loads, should not affect the serviceability of the structure. The ultimate limit state and serviceability state relates to the safety of the buildings near in the vicinity. The safety and stability of nearby buildings and services should not be put to risk. Let's look at the building from concept to construction. You start with preliminary studies, planning, and data collection. The conceptual design is done. This is followed by the geotechnical investigation, the geological investigation, maybe in two stages, preliminary and detailed. Then the preliminary foundation analysis is done based on the available geotechnical data. This is followed by the detailed foundation design. Now comes the construction. Here, the role of the geotechnical engineer, particularly in the foundation testing, is very important. And of course, review of foundation performance and monitoring. This requires interaction between the structural engineer and geotechnical engineer at all the stages. Let's see how the design proceeds. The initial design, the responsibility of the structural engineer and the geotechnical engineer. The column loads and the configuration is decided by the structural engineer. The geotechnical engineer goes for the subsurface investigation, does the bearing capacity and settlement analysis, the pile capacity analysis, may perform load tests to verify the bearing capacity or the pile capacity. Then according to this, the structural engineer selects the foundation type. Then when we come to the detailed design, the structural design of the foundation is done, and the geotechnical engineer is involved in estimation of the soil spring constant or modulus of subgrade reaction, and of course the settlement analysis. Geotechnical interpretative studies, most important part. This involves the foundation type selection and the sizing of the foundation based on the SBC value. If pile draft is required, select the pile diameter and length as per the required pile capacities under compression, uplift, and lateral loading. Verify single pile load carrying capacity from initial load test. This is followed by pile draft soil structure interaction. This has to be done using the final column loads and locations. Zoned spring constants or modulus of subgrade reaction has to be selected depending on the load distribution. Then the settlement analysis of the pile draft is done to assess the load share between the raft and the pile so as to optimize the number of piles required. The levels of geotechnical input, you start from the bronze, moving up to silver, gold, and platinum. As one moves along this pyramid from bronze towards platinum, the factor of ignorance reduces, the reliability of the design is enhanced, reduction in foundation cost and construction time, and you minimize the possibility of failure. Obviously, you get what you paid for. The savings are tremendous. And in this presentation, I'll be giving one case study where it clearly demonstrated what the savings can be on important projects. So we would like to move towards gold and platinum levels, avoid bronze level investigations. So the geotechnical investigation program should be tailor-made for the project as per the site conditions and as per the project requirements, so that we have site-specific actual design data. Involvement of the geotechnical consultant should continue right up to the construction stage. This has been something which we have been harping on for a very long time. There has been very limited involvement currently. In situ testing of soil and foundations can enhance the quality and reliability of the foundation system. So this chart shows you that as you move from bronze towards platinum, your detailing increases. In a gold and platinum level, you have sufficient boreholes, in situ testing, substantial laboratory testing, and strength tests, and you could be having load tests and other use of software for foundation analysis. But and you have an experienced expert in the platinum stage. But the cost obviously is very economical for the at the bronze level and could go up 5 times or even more in the platinum investigation. But as you go with the more detailed investigation, as I said earlier, the factor of ignorance reduces. You save on construction cost and time, and that could be substantial. So let us see this flow chart on soil investigation, particularly for tall buildings in alluvial soils. So you have the field investigation, the laboratory investigation, and then the engineering analysis. So in the field investigation, the basic minimum requirement is the boreholes. Usually the depth is 1.5 times the foundation raft width, or 30 meters, whichever is more. The standard approach methods of drilling are the auger and shell or rotary drilling. Then in situ testing, standard penetration test is the most common test. Field permeability test, static cone penetration test, pressure meter test, cross-hole seismic test, electrical resistivity test, and other geophysical tests are done in the field. Then comes the laboratory testing. You have the classification tests like the gradation, plasticity, and other tests. Then soil shear strength tests for the C5 values, triaxial test, direct shear tests, etc. Consolidation tests if you have clays. Permeability may be required in case you need to do dewatering. And of course, chemical tests on soil and groundwater to determine the presence of harmful soil. Yeah, then we have the engineering analysis, where you do your assessment of site stratigraphy, develop your design soil profile, do your liquefaction analysis, identify if there is any potential for liquefaction during the design earthquake. Then you decide on your foundation type and depth, do your bearing capacity analysis from the shear criterion and the settlement criterion. Then, of course, the pile capacity analysis to determine the compression, pull-out, and lateral capacities of the piles. And then you have to do a pile group analysis. And lastly, the soil structure interaction for pile raft if piling is required. Use of advanced testing methods like high-quality sampling for specialized laboratory tests, static cone penetration tests, with or without pore pressure measurements. Electric cone is now very popular. Pressure meter tests in soil and rock. This can give you much better assessment of bearing capacity and settlement, and also justify higher pile capacities. Geophysical tests like cross-hole seismic test, seismic refraction test, SASW and MASW tests, electrical resistivity tests. There are a host of other tests which are available. If, of course, using SPT, use an automatic trip hammer. It is increasingly being discarded as a preferred choice of penetration testing in the West. SPT will probably not be the basis of foundation design for critical structures in the near future. But today, of course, we are very dependent on SPT. So use of automatic trip hammer is a very important requirement. Now, when we have such tall buildings and heavy loads and soil structure, load sharing between pile and raft, the quality assurance in pile construction takes on a very important role. So other than the conventional load test, you need to check the structural integrity of the piles, low strain pile integrity test, as well as high strain dynamic load test, instrumentation of the pile. All these are now very critical. So we will briefly discuss the various options that are available here. So quality assurance of foundations, first you would do the assessment of the loads, the site investigation, of course the SPT, cone penetration test, pressure meter tests, select your pile type, and based on your experience and available equipment, what kind of piles you are going to use. And then finally estimate your pile length. And once you have done that, you would do your static analysis as per the applicable codes, your drivability, constructability, and serviceability criteria. These are the risks. And of course, the quality assurance program by the static load tests and dynamic load tests and integrity tests. These are facts which you can use to mitigate your risks and be more confident and of the reliability of your data and behavior of your piles. So the kind of load testing which is commonly used, static load tests and dynamic load testing. So the static load test by dead load method or by reaction piles or anchors, both these are quite cumbersome. The bottom applied load cells like Osterberg cells, these are now getting popular, although not yet very extensively. There have been several bidirectional load tests being done in the country here. Now, as far as dynamic load tests are concerned, it has also gone through a very long journey, right from the dynamic formulas in 1890 to the wave equations in the 1950 to the CAPWAP analysis, which is currently used. So let's look at these quality assurance tools. Static load tests, the low strain pile integrity testing, or the pulse echo method for pile integrity and structural quality. It can help you identify if there are any defects in the piles. Sonic logging or tomography, again another test for pile integrity and structural quality. High strain dynamic load tests for structural quality and to assess the load carrying capacity. PDA is most popular. Bidirectional load test or the Osterberg cell are also something which is very important, commonly used now. So this is the wave propagation. You have in the top of the pile is hit with a hammer, and the wave travels along the pile, gets reflected back from the bottom of the pile. So you can calculate the wave velocity, and there are any defects, you would have a wave arriving at an earlier time. So that way you can identify the presence of defect. So this is the pile integrity testing by the pulse echo method. You have an accelerometer measuring the response. A small handheld hammer hits on the top of the pile, gets reflected from the bottom of the pile here. But if there is a defect here, you would get an earlier arrival. So this defect can be easily identified if it's a bad pile. Dynamic pile load test, on which you hit the top of the pile with a hammer, a heavy hammer. The load is measured using strain transducers, and motion is measured using accelerometers. So this is the PDA approach. So another view of the equipment of the PDA. This is the cross-hole sonic logging, in which you have 4 tubes placed inside the hole, and you place the probes at the bottom of the tubes, and you can create an impact in one and measure the response in the others. So the stress waves emitted in one tube is received by another if the concrete quality is satisfactory, you can identify the quality of the concrete by the PDA, by the method. So this is a 3D tomography from the cross-hole tomography. Finally, I come to the bidirectional load test, in which you have the towards the bottom of the pile, usually at 2/3 height, you have a sacrificial jack, and this can apply load on the pile. So you don't need any reaction system though, because the pile itself provides a reaction. Now I come back to tall buildings. So the types of foundations for tall buildings, you have a raft foundation or a pile foundation. The most popular, of course, is the hybrid pile and raft. So let's see the load transfer mechanism in a pile raft. You have part of the load being transferred to the raft and balance the skin friction along the side and, of course, at the pile tips. In stiff clays and medium dense to dense sands, the contribution of the intervening soils between the piles can be substantial. In soft clays and loose sands, of course, the contribution may be slow, may be small, because you have to maintain displacement compatibility between the pile and raft. So load transferred to the pile may be higher than usually considered from the factor of safety criteria. That is, we can lower the pile up to 70 to 80% of the ultimate capacity. The piles are only acting as settlement reducers. So you are going to lower the pile to substantial level, almost factors of safety as low as 1.3, 1.4. So again, this highlights that the quality assurance program has to be very rigorous, and you have to be very confident that your piles are going to be safe. As a result, the number of piles shall reduce substantially. The design considerations, of course, you are familiar with the displacements in both vertical and lateral direction, and the stiffness. You have to check for the bearing capacity and the shear strength. Usually, the critical case is the serviceability state, where the displacement is, the critical thing. You design for displacement, but check for strength. Overall, the performance depends on the individual components and their interaction. So both are important. Advanced soil structure interaction analysis, 2D, 3D. Usually 3D analysis is done using various finite element softwares to get a realistic geotechnical model with proper understanding of soil property. So prepare a realistic geotechnical model, understand the constitutive behavior of the soil, and assess the soil properties. The geotechnical investigation should be done to obtain knowledge of geology, relevant geotechnical properties, and construction risk. Confirmation through testing, practically, it is feasible only on the individual piles, very expensive and impossible almost to test groups of piles. So this is the design criteria considerations for the piled raft as well as the isolated individual rafts. So immediately beneath the footing, you need to know the strength, the bearing capacity, the settlement, and the stiffness or the K value. Along the pile shaft, you need the geology, soil properties, pile shaft resistance, possibility of negative skin friction, the K values along the pile length, both vertical and horizontal, and pile drivability issues, installation issues, if there are any. At the pile toe, you're interested in the geology and soil properties, presence of hard strata for good end bearing, pile installation and drivability issues, and again stiffness at the tip. Below the pile toe, twice the width of the raft, you need to know the soil properties. Make sure that there are no weak soils below the pile tip, and of course the soil stiffness for settlement analysis. IS 16700 2017. This code is for the criteria for structural safety of tall buildings. Let us look at the provisions related to the geotechnical aspects. The tall building code, it says that you have to do boreholes spaced at 30 meters within the plan area of the building. Minimum 3 boreholes per tower. and depth of the borehole below the basement level should be minimum 1.5 times the width of the foundation, or 30 meters if rock is met, maybe deeper if unusual conditions are met. Detailed geotechnical analysis in alluvium, what is important is the liquefaction potential. Bearing capacity analysis, traditional analysis as per IS 6403. Pile capacity analysis depending on the pile type. You have IS 2911, and estimation of the spring constant, soil spring constant, and modulus of subgrade reaction. So as far as settlement of the foundation is concerned, you would determine the maximum vertical settlement under the gravity loading. This has to comply with the requirements of IS 1904 for soil and 12070 for rock. As far as soil is concerned, this particular code requires 50 millimeter settlement for isolated footings and about 75 millimeters for raft foundations. So the permissible settlement in for pile raft and raft foundations for tall buildings may be relaxed to 125 mm. So we are now allowed a much higher settlement. However, subject to the condition that the maximum angular distortion in the raft shall not exceed 1:500 in soil and maximum 50 mm in rock. But this requires detailed geotechnical investigation. It's not a license to use higher permissible settlements as such. So, and also soil structure interaction analysis should be done to make sure that at every point in the raft, the settlement is within the limit, and then your angular distortion is also within the limit. Ideally, it would be good if you can monitor settlement during construction. For raft foundation analysis, buildings less than 150 meter height, zoned spring constants are used depending on the loading condition, may be used for the design. For more than 150 meter height, soil structure interaction is required. Pile raft with piles being used as settlement reducers, soil structure analysis should be done with actual column loads at the column locations for the dead load, live load, wind, seismic load combinations. So whichever is critical, you should design for that. So now I come to a case study which I was talking about. It's a 38-storied building in Noida. In this building, we had 2 basements, and it was planned as a high-end commercial and retail facility, mixed land use. So that's artist's impression of how the building will look like when it comes up. So this site is in Noida, not far from the river Yamuna. Alluvial deposits of the Indo-Gangetic alluvium are encountered to more than 100-meter depth here. So initial investigations which was done by the owner, this was 7 boreholes to 30-meter depth and 3 boreholes to 40-meter depth. The boreholes were drilled after excavating to 6-meter depth. They did that because the water table was just below this level. So what we got was siltifying sand primarily encountered, and groundwater was met around 1.5 meter below that excavated level. The capacities for the RCC boat cast in situ piles, as recommended by the Soil Investigation Agency, for cutoff level at 9-meter depth below the ground level. This was for 1,000 mm dia piles, 300 tons for a 30-meter pile, and 350 tons for a 35-meter pile. For 1,200 dia pile, they had recommended 420 tons for 30 meters and 480 tons for 35-meter long pile. These values are typical of that used in nearby projects in Noida, and they seem to be very reasonable numbers on the face of it. So the owner did some pilot tests using concrete blocks for cartilage. So these are the initial results of the initial static load test on 1,000 and 1,200 mm dia piles. You can see this pile particularly, this underperformed. Probably there were some defects in this pile, but the other 2 piles which were tested, they're showing good results. In the 1,200 mm pile, again, there were some piles which underperformed, one pile was showing good result. So what these piles which had not failed, we extrapolated the load settlement curve by by hyperbolic model was used in which you can extrapolate the load settlement graph, considering that the curve load settlement graph would be a hyperbola. So while this pile had already failed, so we didn't have to extrapolate TP1. The other piles, we estimated that the piles can carry anything between 687 tons to more than 1,000 tons. So these piles were capable of that kind of a loading. The summary of the load test results here. So you can see that where bentonite had been used, this particular pile had failed, this 40-meter long pile, as well as 35-meter long pile. Whereas where we had used, the contractor had used this polymud and alpha bond, is getting reasonable capacities. Also, polymer was used for the 1200 dia piles. Some of these results were quite encouraging, but some piles had failed. So this is the stage at which we got in and did some confirmatory geotechnical investigations. So what we did was 3 boreholes to 60-meter depth within that tower area, 1 cross-hole seismic test to 60-meter depth, and also 12 pressure meter tests at 5-meter intervals to 30-meter depth. On the basis of this initial design, then obviously these pile load tests had already been done. We added this with a high strain dynamic pile load test using PDA. Then construction monitoring of the foundations was done using, again, low strain integrity tests were also done. And then the final design was developed. This is a layout which shows the additional investigation being done. So here we had the cross-hole seismic and then the boreholes. The typical borehole data shows primarily sand, reasonably good SPT values. There were some localized discontinuous layers of silt here and there. And pressure meter tests were done. So these were the profile of the pressure meter parameters, the deformation modulus and the limit pressure. The cross-hole seismic test, based on the wave velocities, the dynamic modulus, and the shear modulus and other parameters were determined. This is the design profile which was selected based on all these tests. So other than the C5, you had the E value for the raft, then from the pressure meter, the E values which are determined, and of course the limit pressure. So this is the computed pile capacities which we had assessed based on all these testing. So as against 300 tons for the, which had been determined in the initial, so we determined it was 464 tons from C5 values and about 480 tons from the pressure meter. So the value selected for design was 470 tons. Similarly, for the 35-meter long pile, we selected a value of 540 tons. Same way, the 1200 dia piles, also we could estimate much higher capacity. So now we come to the pile raft, the system which was used to optimize and economize the design. Pile dia 1000 mm, pile length 35 meters, and the raft thickness was 3.5 meters. Analysis was done using Plaxis 3D. The piles were introduced at strategic locations depending on the load distribution below the raft. So the load combination of dead load and live load. So first analysis, first trial was done without piles, and then wherever the higher large settlements was observed, the piles were introduced, and the final pile layout was decided after several trials. So the maximum rafts total settlement was about 74.3 mm, and the maximum load on the pile was coming as 890 tons. The angular distortion was very less, about 1 in 1200. So this is the pile layout, which we had finalized. The settlement contours, the maximum settlement was about 74.3 millimeters. And this is the contact pressure contours below the raft. And the soil spring constants were identified, pressure divided by displacement. And then, of course, the pile stiffness, the displacement at the pile level, at the pile point, was used to calculate the deflection at the pile stiffness of each pile. So I'd like to highlight here that based on the initial investigation, 550 piles were required, and which reduced to about 500 in the detailed investigations. But once we could do, we did the pile raft analysis using Plaxis. The load on the pile went up to 900 tons, and the number of piles reduced to 221. So this was a cost saving to the owner to the tune of 26.3 crores against an additional expense of 27.5 lakhs. So you can see nearly 100 times saving was obtained by doing a thorough investigation and soil structure interaction. So with this, I would like to conclude. IS 16700-2017, it defines tall buildings as buildings which are taller than 50 meters. And the IS code permitting up to 125 mm settlement for the raft foundations and pile raft. The critical issues are that you must do a detailed investigation, do an assessment of the liquefaction potential, assess the modulus of subgrade reaction, and restrict the tilt to 1:500. The foundation analysis requires thorough investigation, and the small savings, small expense could lead, savings in the investigation could result in conservative and uneconomical design. If you were to do a gold and platinum level investigation, you can save substantially, and you increase the reliability, and of course save substantially on the costs. You get what you paid for. So with the pile raft, you can you use the load sharing of the soils to optimize, and finite element analysis, of course, is the best way. So I would emphasize that you have to strive to achieve quality in foundation construction. The thrust has to be on reliability rather than factor of safety. Thank you very much. Been a great pleasure talking to you, making this presentation, and I welcome questions now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ravi Sundaram, for a very interesting topic and a very detailed presentation by you, which was really very interesting. Right from the, I think all the participants must have been enriched with your knowledge regarding the testing requirements, the details of the file, and specifically while you presented the case study, that was very interesting to know how the things could change depending upon the detailed investigations, which is an enlightenment to all geotechnical engineers. So let's start. I think we will be having a lot of questions. So I would request the participants to either put their comments, who is going to start the first question, or they can raise their questions one by one. So we can take the first participant.
Are there any guidelines for permissible settlement in case of pile raft foundation? The IS code, this is from Saurabh. The IS 16700, as I told you, allows you up to 125 mm settlement. People are now going with these large settlements, and of course using Plaxis or other softwares to make the proper assessment, and going ahead with the kind of design that I suggested here. Somebody has asked if the presentation can be shared. I will be sharing this presentation with IGS Delhi chapter. You could probably, send your email IDs to Delhi chapter, and through Ms. Aarti, it can be shared to everyone. Or you could write to me on Sanjay's, ravi@sanjay.com. I can send it to you.
Yeah, sure.
Did I miss out any other question?
So there is a question in the chat box. Please explain pile load capacity again, maybe in short note.
Please explain pile
Pile
load
load
capacity.
capacity.
Mr. Sandeep Bhardwaj, by this I presume that you are meaning that you want to know how the pile capacity was, load carrying capacity was determined. As I told you, of course, the design profile I had shared with you, that would be the basis for calculating the pile capacity.
So that clarifies the answer.
And also load tests are the most critical thing, whether you are doing it by static load test or dynamic load test. You need to identify the safe load based on the, finally it is based on the load test. I hope Sandeep Bhardwaj, it clarifies. Something is more required, I will be very happy to explain.
Okay, we can take up the next question.
Sir, there is a question from Mr. S.R. Gandhi asking about any suggestions on the instrument necessary to verify the analysis.
Professor Gandhi, thank you very much for being a part of this presentation. Instrumentations, there have been some instrumented load tests being conducted in the country, several tests you are aware of, like strain gauges along the pile shaft and earth pressure gauges, as well as load cells at the pile tip and all that. If something like that can be done, the analysis methods can be enhanced. Very unfortunately, there is a very limited database of instrumented load tests. If there are more load tests being done with proper instrumentation, that will really enhance the quality of pile capacity analysis which is being done in the country right now. Does that answer, Professor Gandhi?
Yes, yes, it does answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
So there is a question from Mr. V.K. Anwar asking what was the lateral pile load capacities considered in the design.
I don't have the exact numbers with me, but in this particular case, the vertical load was more critical than the lateral. That's why I don't have the data here. These piles were designed for something like 25 to 30 tons lateral load. There is another question on by Mr. Avik Kumar Mandal. Is it possible to identify the presence of soft toe in uncleaned pile toe through pile integrity test? If so, how it can be determined from studying and observing pile integrity records, nature of curve? Please discuss what is the type of pile integrity test preferable for checking integrity of pile, of long piles, say length diameter ratio greater than 20 or so. For piles up to length L by D ratio of 30, you could do low strain integrity tests, and low strain integrity tests can identify defects. This particular data which I had shared here, this shows a defect along the pile. So this is a defect along the pile shaft. So if I had a very weak reflection from the pile toe, I know that there is a soft toe condition. There are various other you have to analyze the data of the low strain pile integrity test to identify the presence of weak toe. We have to be very careful on what kind of filters you use. Otherwise, you can mask the defects. So it is possible to identify soft toe from low strain integrity test. Also, of course, high strain pile integrity test can also be used to determine the presence of soft toe. So all these tests are available to identify soft toe, and we have to be very careful that you don't have a soft toe at the so you would lose the end bearing. I hope that clarifies, Mr. Mandal.
Sir, there is one more question for Mr. Mandal. He is asking, is it preferable to conduct both static and dynamic pile load tests in the same pile, or the load tests are to be conducted two different piles?
Okay, as long as the pile did not fail, probably you could, but you should give a time gap in between to allow the stresses to recoup. If the static load test is done and the pile has already failed, then you would get a poor result in the dynamic load test. Same way, if you had done the dynamic load test earlier and the pile deflection is displacement which you had able to mobilize was quite large, almost close to the ultimate pile capacity, then it is not worth testing it statically. Preferable to do it on different piles.
Okay. So there is
Usually
one
the same
question.
group, if you can ideally test two nearby piles, one statically and one dynamically, that would be good.
Okay. So there is a question from Dr. Ramesh. In a group pile, piles can be of different length due to existing hard strata. Then how do you estimate the settlement?
That's a tough one. Normally, in the same group, pile lengths are kept the same. But if you have to, if it is due to hard strata, I don't know if it is hard data or hard strata. If it is hard strata and you have the piles socketed into the rock, then of course the same Plaxis modeling can help you to do the analysis. I'm sure it can be done, but unless of course there would be small variations, but I would ideally prefer that all the pile lengths are the same.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. His capacity will change at that time whenever there is a length of the piles is differs. So
What will change?
The pile capacity. Pile capacity, sir.
Pile capacity will change.
Automatically, when the pile capacity will changes, let us say even the hard rock is there, it has an inclination very clearly. The inclination may be around 20 degrees. Then automatically we get definitely there is a difference in the pile capacities. So when there is a pile capacities differs, the rotation will be more.
See, if you are going to use piles as a settlement reducer, and then you are not very much concerned about the pile capacities. So if I'm going to be, normally we say factor of safety of 2.5. So the ultimate pile capacity will be different. And so therefore the safe pile capacity will be different.
Okay. We will take as the least one then.
Yes. And you would, when you have a pile as a settlement reducer, then this is the entire group which is behaving together along with the intervening soil. So each pile would have different stiffness because they would have different lengths and a different length of socket into the rock. So that could be assessed.
Okay, thank you, sir.
This kind of finite element is ideal for, particularly you're talking about sloped rock formation.
Exactly.
In that case, you can, if you can put the rock profile into the system,
model,
that would be really, you can do your analysis.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So there is a question from Mr. Anurag Kapoor. Can you specify the percentage load sharing of pile and raft in Pile Draft Foundation for this project?
Okay. For the particular project which I showed, the raft was able to take about 22 to 25%, something like that, load. That is why we had a substantial reduction in the number of piles. But in general, it would depend on the nature of the intervening soil. If I had a softer soil, obviously you would have much lower contribution. Like in soft clays, you would have a lower contribution. In stiff clays and dense sands, the intervening soils can contribute substantially. I hope, Mr. Anurag, I have been able to answer that.
So there are few questions regarding the permissible settlement of pile draft. Ms. Gitanjali has asked that can we consider 125 mm permissible settlement for any tall structures like crude columns, vessels rested on pile draft, or it is only applicable to tall structures? And whereas Dr. Manna is saying if permissible vertical settlement of pile draft is considered 125 mm, what will be the condition of piles? Is the pile failed below the raft as permissible settlement of pile group can't exceed 25 mm as per IS 2911 part 4?
No, 2911 part 4 is applicable for individual pile only. And as far as the condition of the pile is concerned, we are loading the pile to about 70% of the ultimate capacity. So we have a factor of safety around 1.3 or 1.4, whatever that works out. So you have to, you will be able to, your pile should be, of course, the soil could be in the plastics, it could be nearing the plastic stage, but the pile should be in reasonable condition. As far as the question of tall structure like vessels are concerned, this particular code is applicable only for tall buildings, whether it is on raft or pile raft. For tall buildings, this code is permitting 125 mm settlement. As far as crude oil vessels or other type of structures is concerned, normally the height of the building is not that much, so you cannot consider that. For crude oil vessels, the requirements are technical requirements are different, so we will not consider that permissible settlement in this case. I also have a question from Mr. Sumit Mahajan. Raft is rigid and should settle the all the piles uniformly, but the contours show a maximum settlement towards the center of the raft. Yes, the raft was 3.5 meter thick. The settlement would depend upon the distribution of the loads on the columns. So wherever the loading is higher, the settlement would be higher. So that is the, if I can. So this is the contours of the settlement. So you can see here towards the center, here it is mostly uniform. Only towards the edges that the settlement reduces, and this is beyond, of course, this is beyond the raft area. So here, these are the columns which are heavily loaded. That is why you get more settlement here. Is that okay, Mr. Sumit?
There's one question from Mr. Piyush. He says, which pile integrity test is most suitable and cost effective for low budget projects?
For low
Budget
which kind of
projects. Low budget projects.
Low budget. Tall buildings are unfortunately not very low budget. But if we are considering normal buildings, few stories only, then what I would advise is that these low strain pile integrity tests are very economical. You should test it, 100% of the piles should be tested for low strain integrity. And whichever of the piles show possible defects or problems, you could identify those piles for doing the static load test or the dynamic load test. So what this helps is that instead of randomly checking you're testing a pile and being very happy that your pile is safe, you can identify which is the possibly the weakest pile, and if you are able to satisfy yourself that that weakest pile is safe, then you know for sure that all other piles are safe. So that would be a good quality assurance method. So you could save a lot on identifying which pile to test, and if you find that your pile integrity test is showing very good piles, then you could probably minimize the number of tests. And if you find more piles which could have possible defects, then you could have to decide on increasing the number of tests required. So that could be a very economical way of taking a call on how many piles to test. I have one more question. Foundation for raft foundation, minimum stories recommended. Mr. Mohammed Mansoor Ahmed. You see, the number of stories required would depend on the building what you want to use the building for. So if your soil conditions require raft foundation, then go for it. Otherwise, why do you want to go for raft foundation? Go for isolated column foundations. Is that what you are looking for, Mr. Mohammed Mansoor?
Sir, I think we have one more question from Mr. Mandal again. What was the spacing of piles kept in the pile draft system of the case study?
Oh, I don't have that data, but it was little more than 3D. It was about 4 to 5D because the number of piles had been reduced.
Okay.
There is Mr. Kumawat asking if bulb dia of underream pile can be verified from PIT. No, it cannot be. Underream piles, you can only identify if there is a bulb there, if there is an increase in diameter, but exact diameter cannot be determined from PIT.
So I think we have one more last follow-up question from Mr. Sumit Mahajan. He says, can we carry both horizontal and vertical load tests on the same pile?
I will not advise because once you have tested the pile, you have disturbed the soil around the pile, and particularly the soils in the top portion have gone into plastic state. So it is advisable to do it on different piles. Of course, if the displacement is very small during the load test, then maybe you could do that, but still I would not advise.
Hello. I think if there is no more question, I would request Dr. Altaf to take over.
Hello.
Hello, I think there's some connection problem at Dr. Altaf end. So,
Anyways, I'll officially on behalf of IGS Delhi chapter, sir, thank you, Ravi sir, for your guys' presentation. I am sure everybody here liked it. With the kind of questions, which we see there are a lot of challenges, when it comes to the tall buildings. But I think we are all, as geotechnical engineers, set to take up all challenges. And as is said, like air, I rise up and up. So with this, thank you so much, Ravi sir, and all the participants of the IGS Delhi chapter and other chapters who are here. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Aarti, for that very kind vote of thanks. It was, I enjoyed presenting, and I also appreciate the participants. Many of them have been, very appreciative of the presentation. That encourages me. And I'm very grateful to all of you who were here. Thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure being together with you for this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, on behalf of IGS Delhi chapter and all the participants there. Thank you so much for your time. I think it was a day well spent in learning from the expert, Mr. Ravi Sundram. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. And I will send the presentation to you, Aarti. You can
Sure,
share it
sir.
with the
Sure, sir.
participants.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.